Welcome to The Explainer. Forget the standard narratives you probably learned back in grade school. Today, we're totally peeling back the layers of time to reveal a completely forgotten world. We're looking at the vibrant, deeply complex civilizations that thrived right here in the Americas, long before a single European ship ever crossed the Atlantic. Okay, let's dive into this. For centuries, there's been this very specific, really powerful myth dominating our history books, right? The idea that the Americas were just this vast, untamed, and mostly empty wilderness before European contact. Just sprawling, untouched land. But honestly, the reality was wildly different. This continent was actually a bustling, dynamic home to massive empires, intricate cities, and vast trade networks that spanned the entire continent. It was a world absolutely teeming with life, diverse cultures, and profound human achievement. Section 1. Crossing the Land Bridge, the First Arrivals. So to truly grasp the massive scale of these ancient empires, we kind of start at the very beginning. Just imagine the sheer bravery of those first humans. During the last ice age, sea levels dropped so incredibly low that you could literally walk from Russia to Alaska without getting your feet wet. Following the herds, these early pioneers made that terrifying, perilous crossing over the frozen Bering Land Bridge. And from there, we see an incredibly rapid expansion across two massive, diverse continents, which eventually led to the rise of what archaeologists call the Clovis people. So who exactly were the Clovis people? Well, they're primarily identified by a true technological marvel of the ancient world, these incredibly distinct fluted stone tools. These masterfully crafted spear points were actually used to hunt massive Ice Age megafauna. It's crazy to think about. Today, these beautifully engineered tools are scattered all across North America, and they really act as the first major archaeological clues we have for piecing together this ancient puzzle. They represent some of the very first widespread human inhabitants, the foundational pioneers of the Americas. Section 2. Rise of Ancient Empires. From Nomads to Builders. Now, what's really interesting about this is how these early hunters eventually settled down and transformed into incredibly diverse cultures. Just look at the sheer geographical genius here. Over in the eastern woodlands, the Adena literally shaped the earth into monuments. Building right on top of that foundation, the Hopewell culture emerges, taking those complex earthworks to a massive scale and establishing trade networks that reached way across the continent. And then, out in the harsh, arid southwest, we have the Ancestral Puebloans. They masterfully adapted to the desert, constructing these stunning, multi-story cliff dwellings built directly into the sides of deep, sheer canyons. Each of these cultures found totally unique, genius ways to thrive in entirely different environments. Section 3. Cahokia, the Lost City, Mississippian Metropolis. And this brings us to the absolute pinnacle of North American civilization before European contact, 20,000. That was the estimated peak population of Cahokia around the 11th and 12th centuries. I mean, that is an absolutely staggering figure. Imagine a sold-out Madison Square Garden, but functioning as a bustling metropolis sitting right in the middle of the American Midwest. At its height, Cahokia rivaled and maybe even exceeded the populations of major European cities of the exact same era. Cities like London. It completely shatters that whole myth of an empty wilderness. Right at the very center of Cahokia stood these enormous earthen mounds. And we're not just talking about simple hills here. They were absolute marvels of ancient engineering that towered over a sprawling, highly organized urban landscape filled with plazas, distinct neighborhoods, and massive defensive walls. Think about this. Constructing these monumental mounds required moving millions of baskets of earth entirely by hand. No horses, no wheels, just sheer human willpower and some brilliant communal organization. Section 4. Mysteries of Decline, Fading Regional Powers. Before we look at their fall, we really have to understand just how connected they were, and this brilliantly illustrates that point. Imagine a seashell harvested down on the Gulf Coast, traveling thousands of miles up vast river systems that basically acted as ancient superhighways, all to be traded for copper up near the Great Lakes. These completely disparate cultures across the entire continent were intricately linked. They weren't just swapping materials, they were sharing religion, art, and some incredible technological innovations. Yet, despite all of this vibrant connectivity, we're faced with a profound historical mystery: their decline. We see the sudden, completely inexplicable abandonment of massive cities like Cahokia, and a sudden halt in the construction of their great earthen monuments. Scientists have actually uncovered signs of shifting climates and prolonged brutal droughts, challenges that honestly sound eerily familiar to us today. Long before Europeans ever arrived, these grand cities fractured and dispersed, and their epic plazas just fell silent. Section 5. When everything changed, the collision of worlds. While the continent had already seen empires rise and fall, 1492 marks a profound collision of two completely distinct worlds. This is the factual, undeniable before and after impact of Christopher Columbus's arrival. This collision brought entirely new technologies, foreign powers, and, tragically, devastating new diseases. It forever altered the trajectory of these ancient lands, accelerating the loss of their history and burying the memory of those grand cities and vast trade networks deep beneath forests, fields, and modern towns. So the crucial takeaway here is that American history absolutely does not begin in 1492. It is a vast, cinematic saga of ancient ingenuity, towering cities, and interconnected empires that thrived for thousands of years. We've really only just begun to scratch the surface of this forgotten world, which leaves us with one haunting question. What other lost civilizations are still sleeping beneath our feet? Thanks for joining me for this explainer.